Hi everyone, welcome to this video for Pearson 2.0, GCSE English Language. I'm going to be using the rugby and soccer extract for this video to look at one of the evaluation questions in the specification, Paper 1, Question 5. In terms of the question strategy, in other words, how do you approach this task, you must write 3 points. The question makes explicit reference to 3. But there's no need to analyse language or structure. So no adjectives, verbs, you don't need to comment on that. When I teach this question, and I always say that because there are different ways teachers teach questions, of course, but when I teach this question, I use the point, example, explanation formula in a traditional kind of way. Whatever way your teacher tells you, though, to approach this task, each of the ways will include the need to select evidence carefully and judiciously from the extracts. And that's why I say in English, a highlighter is often your best friend. For this task, you need to be able to make inferences, which means that you need to be able to take the information from the extract and interpret it for yourself in your own words. So the questions there that I've got might help you do that. What does this evidence suggest to you, etc. And this question is 6 marks, and therefore students should be spending approximately 10 minutes on it. So this is what the question will look like in the exam. And first thing, of course, you need to read the extract. But again, it's the task underneath the extract which arguably is going to be most important because it shows you what evidence you're looking for. So in this question, we're looking for evidence that suggests that the writer persuades us that rugby and soccer are beneficial sports to play. So that idea of beneficial is important there. So clearly the theme of this paper was sport. So all of your answers will come from that specific extract there. And we need to find 3 bits of evidence that prove that rugby and soccer are beneficial sports to play. So let's just read the extract first, and then I'm going to just pause the video briefly for you to find the evidence. So remember, we're analysing the extract, we're finding evidence that links to the focus of the question, which means we're finding evidence that proves that rugby and soccer are beneficial to play. Each sport has its most enthusiastic followers, and both are year by year throwing off their more dangerous elements and becoming more scientific in their manner of playing. It is a sport that neither time nor ridicule has ever been able to stamp out, and it must have a very large influence on the national character. I can only repeat that football is a manly sport, which, in spite of its dangers, real and pretended, must always have a great and increasing place in the affections of the British people, and I would earnestly exhort those who are more or less exposed to it to pause before going to the length of throwing any unnecessary impediments in the way of its exercise by the hale and strong of the coming generation. But I'm speaking for myself, and I am an enthusiast. So this is, of course, the 19th century extract, so the language is perhaps slightly denser than we would have in modern day. Victorians, for example, really liked their long sentences with lots of different clauses in them, lots of different commas in it. But what you need to be able to do is to be able to take your highlighter and find 3 reasons why the writer persuades us that these sports are beneficial to play. So you can pause the video now to try and find them or write down any evidence, or you can carry on watching and I can give you some potential bits of evidence to use. So we have here 3 bits of evidence to support 3 points, and therefore with 3 points we've got 3 paragraphs. So one of the reasons is that according to the writer, these sports are becoming more scientific, the sports are manly, and the sports have a great and increasing place in the public's affections. So the question now is, we've got the evidence. What does this suggest to us? How would you interpret this evidence in terms of the benefits of this? Okay, so again, you can pause the video now to try and work that out for yourself and jot down some ideas, or you can carry on watching and we can discuss what those ideas might be. So the first one, sport is becoming kind of less dangerous because it's becoming more scientific. Whenever you've got science on board, it suggests that that thing, whatever it might be, is taken more seriously. you have scientific studies being run which are very factual and data driven. You can say that when science gets involved biologically, there are greater benefits to people's health. Um, and science is also enabling the sport to become safer to play, which is beneficial because nobody wants to get seriously injured. The second point is that the second point the writer makes is that the sport has kind of manly connotations. And again, if you are male, this is going to be perhaps appealing to you because you perhaps want to appeal strong and competitive and show a sign of strength. And of course, this is, I suppose, a bit stereotypical, rooted in kind of gender stereotypes, men being stoic and strong, for example. But there are lots of men that still think that's what being a man is anyway. And that might be impressive to women. So there's a degree here of athleticism, and men sometimes don't want to appear weak or timid, and therefore this might appeal to them to take part in it. A lot of soldiers joined up in World War One because they wanted to appear strong to women. And nowadays, a lot of men have issues with mental health, and they don't say anything about it because they are worried that they won't be seen as strong or manly. So we still have these stereotypes quite entrenched in our culture, unfortunately. Um, and I don't know how much longer they'll be around, maybe forever. And finally, the last reason is to do with the fact that the sport has a great and increasing place. So that would suggest that more people are playing these sports, and they must be therefore popular because people wouldn't want to play them if they weren't popular. And they're also held in high regard. So people give these sports value. That's why they're constantly around. And the writer seems to suggest that these sports are part of our national identity in Britain. They're fashionable to play and they are cross generational, which means young children play them right up into adults. So these are three reasons why the writer does suggest that rugby and soccer are beneficial to play. In terms of how to answer the question, you're using 3-point evidence explained paragraphs. That's at least what I tell my students. And I get students to use 3 post-it notes and I get them to break down this paragraph into 3 components using the sentence stems and instructions underneath. For the pink, for example, the explanation, that's your inference. The sentence stems, this suggests that, this implies that, or simply using the word suggesting, are good prompts to use to give your own interpretation of the evidence that you give. It's important to remember with the evidence to quote short quotes. Please don't waste time copying long quotes out from the extract because you won't get rewarded for it. Okay, so short, sharp, judiciously and carefully selected evidence is always the winner. So finally then, taking all of this to a kind of a possible response, what could a response look like? And I use the word could deliberately because, English is variable. There are lots of different ways and lots of different things you could say to answer this question well. But this is a model example, perhaps, that students might benefit from seeing. The writer successfully conveys the benefits of playing soccer and rugby. One of the ways that this is achieved is through focusing on how the sports are becoming more scientific, which suggests that both sports are to be taken seriously because of scientific studies developing our knowledge of the sport with use of factual data. Science could also help the sports to become safer and avoid people getting injured. That's one point. The writer also appeals to male readers as soccer and rugby are described as manly, which implies they appeal to men who want to appear strong and competitive and use them as a sign of strength. This may make them appear impressive to women because they are athletic and not coming across as weak or timid. That's the second point. And the third point, both sports continue to be popular and have a great and increasing place with the public, suggesting they remain popular to play and are important to British culture and identity. People value them as sports to play and they never fall out of fashion because their appeal is cross-generational, so all ages. Okay, so that's the third point. I have to remember that this is 6 marks. You're not supposed to be writing an essay. It's supposed to be relatively short and sharp and straight to the point. So that could be what a good response looks like. Okay, so that is for Pearson 2.0, paper 1, question 5, using the text to make evaluations based on a specific task that you're given. Thank you.